Hey everyone, you're watching Ash on Comics, and there's dogs making noise. I'm Ash. Here's today's comic, Die Die Die, issue number 3, Pizza Tonight. I'm more in a mood for Thai. What's up with the creepy sex masks? This is Die 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 by Skybound Entertainment, Robert Kirkman. Get that to focus there. And I think I can't remember who the other guy is. Chris Burnham, I think, is the showrunner. This is a very interesting comic. It's very violent. There's not a very strong script. There's not a strong plot to follow, but I'm not caring. Oh, it's Scott Gimple. It's the co-plotter here. He's a showrunner. I don't know what shows he does, but he's in TV. Chris Burnham, the artist. I'm really much enjoying this issue. I can't fully explain why. Maybe doing this review will help me to verbalize that. But let's get into what's going on here with this issue. Nate Lipschitz. What a fantastic name. Nate Lipschitz was a decorated U.S. soldier specializing in explosives and munitions. He was an invaluable asset in the war efforts in the Middle East. That is, until an unsavory incident involving a commanding officer caused Nate to suddenly not be so decorated. Rumors were that a single punch to the groin resulted in said commanding officer's instant death. Ew. Senator Connie Lipschitz, no relation, wasn't one to let such talent go to waste. She worked tirelessly and traded in a few favors in order to rescue Nate from living out his days in a secret military prison. It wasn't pretty, but eventually she was able to add him to her team. Now Nate is not only energized by the second chance in his life, he's also rededicated himself to the cause now that he knows he's working for someone who wants to, above all else, do the right thing. With that in mind, Nate is always first to throw himself into the fray, because for God, country, he's more than willing. All right. I spare none with the theatrics on this show. You get top-notch special effects, production values on Ash on Comics. Don't forget that. Keep coming back. Anyways, I've always wanted to play that every time I read this book and I have that song comes to my mind. So back to me just boringly blab about a book. If you've been following along at all, you know that this book is about basically government power and using secret assassins to, sort of influence people, take out enemies, scare other, people into doing their bidding and so forth. And this book kind of goes more into that. Excuse me. Here we have Senator Lipschitz. What a crazy name. I think they do that on purpose, this little tongue-in-cheek, because this book is so violent that it could really go down this darkness tunnel of no return with, into a way that it stops becoming entertaining. And I think by adding these little tongue-in-cheek elements, it keeps the audience kind of aware that this is not entirely serious, even though it is played very straight. So we have these two are clearly like rivals. We saw them in a sexually explicit scene in the last issue, I believe it was. And they're going back and forth about their political philosophy and things like that. And he's kind of arguing to her about, how dare you, risk an agent to save, those kids. And she's basically going back to him, her ideals that, if what are we doing here? We're supposed to be fighting for the common, the better good. he's sort of like the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and she's just like, look, if we can't fucking save some kids from being fucked by, our military generals, and we're not doing anything. And so they kind of you kind of see both their points, which I appreciated. I was reading this, and the whole time I was reading, I was thinking, wow, this could easily be like a Comicsgate type of argument here, where I hear people go, well, I thought Comicsgate didn't like politics in comics and so forth. And this is a good opportunity to explain, like, no, there's characters discussing politics in comics is not politics in comics, right? This is a fictitious guy, right? And he has his own personality, his own views that the writer has instilled in him that he believes, right or wrong. Then the other characters all the same way. And they're going back and forth, arguing to each other their ideals. But they're not arguing to you, the reader, right? They're talking to each other. This lets you understand their motives and who they are as people. But the writer's not trying to be like, hey, this is the good guy because he's the liberal, and this is the bad guy because they're conservative. Like, that's politics. That's putting politics as another layer between the comic book and you, the reader. In between, there's this layer of politics. That's what we don't want. Having characters have their own politics within the realms of their world is fine. And in this particular case, I appreciated it because you could see both of them kind of had a point. Both of them were wrong. And ultimately, both are sickos. When it gets down to it, these are like degenerate people that make for interesting characters because they both believe they're doing kind of the right thing. But they're so out of touch with reality that they're bad guys. And it's, they go off here, and I won't read the dialogue to you. If you want to get this book, I encourage you to do so. Yeah, I mean, fuck you. I mean, it feels like a Twitter battle, actually. But no, it's better written than that. And like I said, it's actually good. I appreciated it because it wasn't trying to spit into your face, the reader, of what you should think. This was the internal politics of this world, which, isn't our world. And they're debating how these assassins should be used and so forth. And then we get I like this contrast, Wait, check this out. So we get first a 2-page splash of him going his whole argument and back and forth. And then it's like, now her turn. And, and she gets her speech, essentially. And she, and they go back and forth. And, you look at this and go, oh, Ash, I don't know, that looks boring as hell. I assure you it's not. It's very character developing between these two. And it helps you to understand who these are as people. And like I said, it's very twisted. And you'll kind of see both points. You're like, okay, that's kind of a point. But you're totally missing this other twisted part. And then you go to the other character, and it's like the same thing, but from a different angle. Anyway, so then they show up to the party. It's like, your self-righteous hypocrisy is so intense, it's almost giving me an erection. We're here. So that they pull up, and it's like, so in conclusion, go fuck yourself. That's not why either of us are here. Great sharing a car with you, though. Good talk. I really think we cleared the air between us. I'll be out on the lookout for your mask. Who knows what could happen once we're inside. Oh, creepy. She puts on her little mask, and you're like, what's going on? And then they show up, and it's a little like Illuminati sex party, Bohemian Grove action going on here. You're gross. Takes one to know one. This is definitely, I will tell you, this is definitely no SJW book. But neither is it like an anti-SJW book. This is just people wanting to do their own shit. And if this is sick and twisted for you or too violent, then that's fair. Like, I can understand subjectivity. This is a very violent book, and they do go for kind of the gross out scenes. But I noticed in this book, you could tell, like, they actually are trying to do something. there's not really much violence per se in this book. Like they're not trying to be like violence porn, because if that were the case, then every book would just be more of the same, and it's not. And so in this book, we leave the other characters, the triplets, and we get two new characters. This black guy, I forget if they give his name, and this woman, and they're kind of prepping up a thing, and they're having some kind of little fun banter. And he's talking about how the moon is fake, and it's very fun, like his little theory about why the moon is fake. And he doesn't mean like it doesn't exist. He means like it's not really a moon. It's like a space station or something. And he's got a little fun bit about that. And so after he's just kind of rattling on as they're setting up or something, and then you find out it's like, oh, there's a bank robbery. I'm ready. And the police show up. Oh shit, what's going on? On it, and he fires this little radio gun thing, and it's just like, and immediately makes this guy puke. Man, I gotta get me one of those. My turn. Tick, hits a button. Spack, 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 spack. So he plays like little mini explosives on the ground. Under fire, everybody down, run. So the bank robbers are getting away, and it's like, God, about 40 microcharges. It'll keep them pinned for at least 3 minutes. Let's go. So fun little bank heist right there. We're still not sure like what their part is. And then we get back to a meeting place. And, they're talking, guy banter here. And it's like, she's like, boys, please, they're here. All right, nicely done. Now, if you'll hand over the box, our business can be concluded. I have your new passports, plane tickets, in this case. The code for which will be texted to you the moment we have parted ways. Yeah, that's all well and good, but I want to see what's in the box. No, you don't, buddy. No, you don't. So she goes off. You don't get to see what's in the box. That's our box. That's why you get to keep the money and whatever was in those other boxes you took. And that's why we covered you for your sloppy exit. That's why you're getting help out of the country. We had a deal, you morons. Fuck your deal, girl. I need to know what it is, and if it's valuable, we want half. I like this response. If it wasn't valuable, we wouldn't have had you steal it. You are leaving. Are you leaving, or are we going to have trouble? And then she gets nabbed from behind. Looks like trouble. Whoa, don't ruin Bethany's fun. She's been shot before. She can handle this. Watch. Now, I just read this to you, and you're like, what's the point of you reading all that? Number one, the fun. I wanted to get you a feel of what the dialogue is like when you're reading this book. I think, to me, this is kind of fun dialogue that's different from your typical comic book. And two, even though I don't believe at all that this 110-pound girl could fight off this guy in real life, we live in comic book land where, that happens, so whatever. Notice how this is handled not the way SJWs do, right? They don't have like a couple cuck boys being like, oh no, what's gonna happen? Bethany's in trouble. Like, these are badasses who are like, we gotta go save her. And they don't save her not because of, they're not badasses, but basically because they're like, she's been shot before, she can handle herself. Like, they're totally treating her like one of the guys. And I was like respecting that, because that's been one of my things about comics where they try to make women badasses, but yet it's natural. If you're a woman and you're listening to this, look, it is natural male physiology, psychology, or whatever, to treat a woman in distress like as something that needs to be defended, like a child. It's not demeaning. It's just in a natural way. When we see women in distress, it's the male ego, whatever you will call it, to want to be like, hey, leave that woman alone type thing. And then we see in comics when it's like, you have a character who's a superhero and she's a woman, and then we constantly still like see them getting into trouble, but yet we can't aid them because that would take away from her empowerment. And it just gets in this really weird political bullshit area. So instead of having badass men around that would rescue and save the woman, and they have to emasculate the men and make them all weak so that the woman has to save the day. And these stories get really just stupid because where they draw themselves in a corner. But here they're not drawing themselves. They're just like, yeah, she's badass. Let her kick some ass, you know. And if she gets hurt, whatever, she's been shot before. And that is treating her exactly. That's what treating an equal looks like. And it looks so different than what you're used to. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So she like, one thing that women are usually better at men is being limber. Does this straight up kick with her heel right into the guy's forehead. And you can see like, oh, puncture. Then side kick to the groin. He shoots over her. She flings the knife one way, briefcase the other way, knocking those two dipshits out. And then it's only him. Then she does a kick, a little heel pressure point to the wrist. He drops the gun, headbutt to the face, grabbing the case as it's dropping. And you're getting this all from the art, right? Like I'm following the action here really well. So even though this illustration is not necessarily my style, I feel like it's a little sloppy. It's not the pretty kind of 90s superhero art that I typically like. The sequence, the visual storytelling is on point. She lands on top of him with her hand to his throat. You know, and so she gives him her whole spiel. I won't read to you again, but basically it's like surrender. Anything, you know, I'm going to ask you a question, and anything less than a yes is considered. Sorry, anything less than dropping your gun, which is she's talking to her, is a yes. Understand? And then she says, "Do you want to die?" And drops the gun. Good. So, for whatever reason, they let them up and let them get away with their passports. She's like, burn the passports, blah, 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 blah. Not sure I would think they would let them go after that, but whatever. And then she's like, and that's that. You guys are fun. My partner should get his nose grafted back on more often. And so that reminds us, oh yeah, there's the main characters is that Asian guy who killed his brother. And so now he's at the hospital getting his nose grafted back on. And he's with his brother's girlfriend. And they're having some talk, and he's pretending to be the brother. And so he says something like, oh, I'm kind of amnesiac from the trauma, blah, blah, blah. So he's having, trying to fit in. And he's saying things that she's like, what? What are you talking? Like, it's not making sense. But he's blowing it off as like, oh, yeah, like, I knew that. And so they get home eventually. And, oh, wait, there's another scene where she does a deal with the goods and hands it over. And it's basically blackmail stuff is what was in the box. And there's a reporter, and she's like, what are you going to do? When you say, where'd you get the stuff? And her answer is, one of our investigators found it near the scene of the robbery. They didn't know what they had. Yeah, good girl. So they hand it off to a reporter now. It's going to use it. This is where I said, like, these guys are used to influence people. So they secretly get the blackmail stuff to manipulate whatever their opponents. They're driving away. More banter and talk. We get Connie confronting this lady who was part of the deal and got the letter or the blackmail stuff. And then she's kind of thinking she has one up on Connie. And Connie's like, what did she say? She's asking her how like the trip went with the mask. She's like, why do you do that? She's like, no, mostly the fucking. Let's see. Oh yeah, so it's down here. They're talking and it says, "Yeah, we could get all your nude photos back instead of just the ones you retrieved today." Wait, that's not. How did you? First, don't ever think you can get one over on me. Second, I wouldn't have let you nade it if we didn't need an open seat and blah blah. She's like going on like how she thought she had one over on her, and she's like, showing her that she's really the badass and don't fuck with me. That was a little alpha male moment there between two females. And then we get, I forgot his name, Lipschitz. Anyway, too many Lipschitz. He's coming home, sees the neighbor who's a hot girl. It's like, hey, you want to go for a run? He's like, shit. No, my daughter's home. And apparently this is a babysitter. I thought at first it was just a wife, but no, it's a babysitter. And so she takes off, whatever, thanks Bonnie, let you get home. And his daughter, and it's like, oh, can you read me a story? Sure, blah, 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 blah. Can I hold your gun? Sure, hold on. And he cleans the gun out, checks around. Here you go. And he's like reading this. You're like, it's supposed to be a kid's story, right? You normally would expect, but he's like, here we are, chapter 6. It would be cumbrous to give a detailed consecutive account of our wanderings inside the cavernous, aeon-dead honeycomb of primal masonry. And you're like, what? I'm good with the gun. Nobody will ever kill me like they killed Mommy. And you see him, he's just like, oh, sad. So there's backstory there. Meanwhile, back to the Asian guy. Forget his name. I really got to get these names down. Paul, that's right, fake Paul. And she's cooking dinner and da-da-da. And he's like, on my way, hon, dear. He's like trying to figure out. And he's like, wow, we should have asked you what you called your girlfriend before I killed you. Da-da-da-da. So he's, going through the thing. And it's after dinner, I want to find out what else works. Ooh, got kinky. So they're sitting down and different things. And you're starting to see that she's like, well, that's not adding up. And she's like, oh, not yet. Extra mushrooms for you. My favorite. I forgot the salt. And he's like, chomp, chomp, chomp. And he's eating. And then the next thing is just like, foot to his throat. Shit, I couldn't remember which brother hated mushrooms. What did you do with my boyfriend, George? And so apparently you find out she's a badass as well. And that is the end of this issue. I'm sure my review, stuttering through this, made it feel less interesting than it actually is. I'm really enjoying it. Like I find the tone of the dialogue is this like sort of dark humor. It comes across well. I don't expect like a masterwork in writing. It's a comic book, so I do want it just a little cheese, right? Just a little. Can't have too much. Then it becomes ruined. But this comic has just the right amount of this dark, serious undertones with this black humor. And I'm just enjoying the ride. And I don't know where it's going. I'm on the 3rd issue yet, and there's no plot taking place. I feel like all we're seeing is introducing all these different characters. There's a lot of world building right now, which I'm fine with because I'm interested, and I'm hoping at some point all this will come together and into some sort of straightforward narrative. But in the meantime, like I said, I'm just enjoying the ride. I found this interesting too. There's actually a letters page. Die at skybound.com. Old school classic letter pages that comics don't do anymore. Here's issue 4, redacted. It's gonna be something violent. I'm predicting they'll probably have like a bagged issue with a thing on top to cover the heinous picture, whatever's there. We'll find out. It comes out next week because I'm so late to get to this. So the letters page is interesting. I like letters pages. Every comic needs to get these back, but most comics just don't have the readers anymore to do it. So hopefully, this is a long one. I'm sorry, guys. I babble so much. I hope that you like. For people that are into this type of comic, it's a different kind of thing. I wouldn't want all my comics to be this way. I'm glad to kind of have one. And like I said, it's just, I don't know where it's going, and that's what's really intriguing me. The characters are kind of interesting. They're not necessarily lovable. I'm just enjoying watching what happens. kind of being a fly on the wall, if you will, and just seeing what's going on. So that's what I'm going to convey to you. If you're not against the violence or some of the weird themes, which, like I said, it's not gratuitous. They aren't doing this to exploit or, to be pornographic in any way. It's just part of this world, so it's necessary to show it. This is a thumbs up for me. High recommend. Not high. Okay, it's only a 1 thumbs up. I want to give this 2. I can't yet because there's no plot. I haven't seen where it's going. I can't. I'm very much enjoying it. I have to hold back 1 thumb. But it looks like it's ramping up. Could go to 2. Check this book out if it anyway looks like your thing. Move the needle. Hit me up if you check it out. Twitter, Ash1138. Yeah. I'll see you guys next time.